is called Building with Laravel and SingleStore. And thanks everyone for joining. This will be a 1 hour session and it will be broken down into a few sections. And just give me a second on to some operational things. Yes. So initially it would be me just letting you know how everything works. So currently you are in a listen only mode, and I will be providing the links to all the resources that are relevant to this webinar in the chat. So keep an eye out. We interact with the people that are attending the webinar live using the Zoom Q&A button. So please leverage that if there's any questions, if you have any feedback or just general comments as well about the session, and we'll be very happy to take it up live. We generally follow a policy of answering almost all the questions live that are feasible, and yeah, we hope that we can have an interactive session. And yeah, obviously there will be a dedicated Q&A session that will be held towards the end of the session. And Asawari, I think there's a demo as well for today's webinar, right? So we will be showing a demo as well, like before the Q&A. So yeah, feel free to follow along because SingleStore is offering $600 worth of free credits for if you sign up right now, there's no credit card that's required and it's pretty seamless. So if you can follow along in real time during the webinar, it's generally recommended as a best practice. So yeah, because if there's any questions or if there's any where you get stuck, you can always ask live, because we have a Sabri and she's a subject matter expert here at SingleStore, so she can assist you with anything. Yeah, so Sabri, please take it away, and folks, please keep an eye out on the chat as I put on all the resources.
Thank you. Thank you, Yukti. Okay, so I'm not sure from where you are all joining in, so I'll just say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. And welcome to another webinar, which is done by SingleStore, where we explore SingleStore's capability and its potential to build real-time applications. So in this webinar today, we will learn about building a Laravel application with SingleStore and also understand what our customers on Laravel and SingleStore have been saying about how they have been benefited in their use case, and also see at the end of it is a demo where I've created a very small observability platform built on all Laravel and SingleStore. So I would show you how it performs the transaction analytics and everything all in just one single database. So this is how we are going to explore its capabilities. So let's begin. And before we begin, let's look at the some of the housekeeping rules that we have. I think since you're all in the listen only mode, your mics are already muted, so I think we're good with that. But if you have any questions in between, please put your questions in the Q&A or in the chat box so that we can take up those questions at the end of the session. And while you are having a conversation in the chat, if there's any discussion that goes on in the chat, please be respectful. The session is being recorded, and the recording of this session would be available on our SingleStore YouTube page. So keep an eye out on the YouTube channel as well. And if we talk about the slides, the resources, the GitHub repository that I'm using, and the links to all of those would also be sent to you if you have registered for this webinar. And if you are have missed out the session in between, you can also fall back onto our SingleStore's YouTube channel for if you have any questions on it. So these are some of the resources which Yukti would share it in the chat box as well, where we have a developer hub, the link to the documentation, the blogs. Uh, there's also made on SingleStore, which is done on all by our customers, and they tell about their story, their use cases, and how they have been benefited with SingleStore. And then you can follow us on LinkedIn, on X, on Instagram, and we also have a Reddit subreddit for SingleStore as well. I'll talk about that in a little bit of in just 2 slides. So moving on, if you're new here and if you don't know me, my name is Aasawari and I'm a developer advocate here at SingleStore. And a part of my job is to create technical content for you all, which would help you in your use cases. So these content are in the form of blogs, tutorials, YouTube videos, webinars, and all of those. And we have something new which is coming up, which is the SingleStore Reddit community. We have a new subreddit for which is owned all by us. So if you have any questions related to this webinar or any webinar that you have seen or any video that you are watching, and if you have any questions that are being unanswered, that have been left during the webinar, you can always you can always come back onto these subreddit and ask your questions. So we are trying to establish that subreddit community which we have, and make sure you follow us for more updates. You'll have updates on the blogs which are getting published, the webinars which are coming in. So you would have plenty of content on our subreddit as well. So this was all about the introduction. I'm just checking. We have some questions. No. Okay. So great. So you can either scan this QR or take this r/SingStore community, and it would take you to the subreddit. Uh, all the posts that we do is all we talk about the blogs. We just talk about tech. So if you're someone who is interested to write about SingleStore, or if you have a use case, you're building something out of SingleStore, or any question related to SingleStore, we'll try to help you out in every possible way. Okay. Now, let's begin this webinar and understand. So before you start building, you probably would have a question on why are we using this tech stack? Why are we using Laravel? Why are we using SingleStore? And what is so great about SingleStore that we are choosing this over other databases? So I can help you answer those questions, and my answer would also involve some very fine use case examples where we have seen SingleStore performing excellently. So if you are again first time visitor of our webinar, or if you have not used SingleStore before, SingleStore is a data platform which is built for modern applications. This is a single statement which holds too many things. So it allows you to build this modern application, perform in-app analytics, which helps you build systems like recommendation systems, or even just a great analytical application for trading. And with the generative AI section coming in, now you have seen every application that you have on the internet is using a generative AI or an agentic AI system into their existing application. So SingleStore is not lagging behind there. SingleStore will still help you build those generative AI application with ease. So I have just 3 use case examples where I can give you, showcase you, or I can rather convince you on how SingleStore performs better. So let's take an example. The first example is you have a wealth management system. You're trying to build an application which is for the trading platform, for an example, and where your customers are in the need of fresh data, and this fresh data is required in every 2 seconds because of the trading pattern that goes on. So when you say you need fresh data, you need a lot of data that is being ingested into the system. Now, a lot of ingestion is also going on, and along with it, a lot of transaction are also happening. Now, when you say you're building something like trading application, you need to have a system where you already have a system where you have a huge customer record, which means a bulk ingestion is again going on. And finally, you need all the data to be processed in 2 seconds. So you need a system that performs analytics at a very higher rate. It performs high performance analytic queries with ease. And now you don't need 3 different systems to produce that. Instead, you could all do all of this in just one system called SingleStore. Let's take another example where let's say you're trying to build a cybersecurity system where your customers need real-time scalable security built for changing infrastructure and deployed their way. So if you see and break it down further, there are too many requirements in this entire system. The first one is where you're trying to build a real-time where you're trying to build a real-time system where your system should respond to queries in milliseconds. The second one is you're trying to build a scalable system which is adaptive to the changing infrastructure that you have in the cybersecurity applications. And finally, you want the system to be deployed that way. So single stores has a capability. SingleStore's Helios has a capability of bring your own cloud, where you could use your own cloud and integrate it with SingleStore, and you can use it. So instead of having different systems, for example, you need one for real time, you need one for security, you need one for changing infrastructure, and one for your deploying it their way. For now, in place of 4 different systems, you could replace everything with just one system called as SingleStore. Let's look at another example, which is a data and AI application. Now, let's say you are trying to build an application which is basically for your sales team, where there is a need to have faster charts, smart searches, and AI driven insights, and which is also best in the class data. So, now to build all of these systems, you need to have faster analytics, faster more number of users which are coming in. Then you need to have AI driven insights, where single stores AI and ML functions could play a very important role and help you reduce that latency in your application. And then finally, the search capability that it supports. So now using your users will also use faster analytics, have smarter search, and also use AI driven insights all together in just one single system called the single store system. And that is why we call this as a unified data platform for building modern and intelligent applications. Now, if we break this entire diagram into different parts, on the left you see one is where you can stream the data. Now Kafka is one of the most used and most common platform where you're trying, if you're trying to ingest the real time data. So single store has a support to stream that data from Kafka. If you are on MongoDB, so using CDC and all of those system to integrate it all together, you can do that with single store. Or if you are on any other system, the single store flow, which is a no code platform, helps you migrate the data from any of other databases into single store, and this entire migration is also very very seamless. And then you have support with Cloudflare, Databricks, and Cloudera, Snowflake, Databricks, and Cloudera to support that. And finally you can build LLMs and integrate LLMs, Hugging Face data, OpenAI data into your existing system and build a strong generative AI application. So the kind of support that you're seeing here is right from from where you're ingesting the data to the time where you're trying to build a very very strong generative AI application. Now, single store has a very robust ecosystem interoperability, which means that it has support and it works well with all of the technologies that are present on the internet as of now. It works with well Node.js, Python, Laravel. We'll see how it works well with Laravel, PHP, and everything else. And then you have all the good. You have the single store flow, which helps you migrate the data from any other database that you have. It has the support for Jupyter or creating those notebooks very very easily. So any of the tech stack that you talk about, the integration is already there. So you just name your tech stack and we'll help you build your entire system and reduce the need of multiple system that you have in your enterprise into just one single system and replace it with just with single store. Now, as we're talking, this is a Laravel. This is like a webinar which we are doing for building application with Laravel and SingleStore. Here are some of our customer stories where the CTOs and the CEOs have said some amazing things about SingleStore, and they have built their applications on Laravel and SingleStore. So this is one of the famous quote, say famous thing that was said by CTO from Monitor Base, where since they have started switching to single store and since they've started using single store, they do not have to worry about the downtime, APIs being down, or having to recollect the data. So if you are somebody who is facing any of these issues in your system currently, we could definitely help you out in building your application stronger with single store, because Monitor Base is already using single store, so they have all faced it this. And another one was from Phantom Analytics. So there's a story to it where they reached a point where the existing infrastructure and existing architecture could no longer support the business. And then the customers were growing every hour, the data grew very, very large, and the system could not handle it. So they were using different systems for transactional workload, for performing the analytics, for ingesting the data. And then finally, when they integrated with machine learning technologies, they wanted to integrate another system into it. And this fragmentation of having five different systems to do five different things resulted in delay of their dashboards being loaded. Now this delay was taking up to 5 to 10 seconds of load and sometimes more, where this real time changes were not getting reflected. So they spent a huge amount of time and they wanted one system which could perform all. And then eventually they said no to MySQL, Redis, and DynamoDB, and then just use SingleStore. So they started using SingleStore pipelines and Flow to ingest the event streams directly into the database. And then with the column store indexes, the universal storage, and distributed compute, their entire workload went down under 200 milliseconds. So now they're using SingleStore's for real time, for building real time anomaly detection. Then they're using for personalized recommendation, and then predictive insights for end users. So all of this capability has helped them reduce 60% reduction in the database total cost, and smaller engineering footprints, and faster feature delivery, because the architecture became very, very simple. They do not have to be dependent on many different systems. So these are some very, very live examples that we have one of our customers who are on Laravel and with SingleStore and have been using SingleStore for their use cases. So now it's time for demo. So if you are already Okay, so now if you are already using Laravel, or if you're not using Laravel, there are some of the things that we need as prerequisites while you are building an application with Laravel. So let's begin first with that. So I already have a terminal window open. So let me create just a new folder for myself. Okay, let me remove that. And then let's create a new one. Great. Now let's go inside it and then let's start building. Now let's first see what all do we have. You need to have PHP. So I have 8.4.1 loaded inside my system. And then the next thing that you need to have is Composer. So now if you have these two on your system, let's start creating the project. So the first step is Composer, create project, Laravel slash Laravel, and let's name it as demo. Uh, let's name it as demo A. Now this project is created. Let's go inside it. Let's wait for all the dependencies to download, and the next step would be to moving inside the project. So this is the project that we have created. Now write Composer. Let's install the SingleStores dependency and the Laravel driver. So SingleStore tb slash. I hope my spellings are correct. Yeah. Okay, so now it is installing this into my system. And now everything is installed. Now we just need to open the IDE of your choice, open the project. So let's go and open the project. Let me open a new project which we have created. So this is the new project, and let's do this as new window. So now this is the project that you will already see, and if you have used Laravel before, you might have already seen this. If you have built anything with Laravel in the past with SQL. So let me give you a brief of what each of these folders are. So inside these are the configuration file that it has. Now, if you want to create new files, you need to put them into these migration folder, and it will create a new table for you once the connections are made. Then you have all the code that goes into these models providers, and so the controllers go here, the models go here, and the service providers, all the edits go here. If you want to create a command or anything, all of that goes here. Now the next important step is where you edit the .env file with the connection that I have. So let me just use my connection, and so this is what I am using at this point. I'll use the same database. I'll use my host name, and all of this you can get from SingleStore. So let me show you how can you do that. So once you register to that $600 credit link, this is where it would take you. And then let me open my deployments. So if you see, this is how it would look like on your screen on your SingleStore's platform. How do you connect is go to your app, click on your app, and then click on, let's say, Python for an example. Yeah. Or if you just take, because you just need to have the ID name and everything. So let's just take this. So you have this command, or this is the endpoint that you can use. You need to have the username and admin, and then everything you're all set to make that connection. So that is what we have also used inside the system. And the next step is where you edit the config slash database.php. So by default, it is making connection to SQLite. So let's change that to SingleStore, and then also add a new connection over here. So I have everything written, so that is why I'm copy pasting it. So if you need the link to the GitHub repo, I can share the link with you as well. So I think we're doing something wrong. Okay, so now the connection is established and then we are all set. Let's open the terminal and write a few commands where you need to just generate this, and your key would be generated. The next step is if you want to create a table. So as I said, if I want to create a new table, so if I run this users cache and job, this table would already be created. Now let me just copy this and I'll create a new table and I'll show you how this table is being created and stored inside SingleStore. So let me just copy the name and then new PHP file, and let's name the table as new users, and let's create this table. So now to do this, you need to have a migration command where you are trying to create this table. Now, again, I already have the code for it, so I'm not going to waste time, where it is using just ID, name, and email, and then email verified at, where I'm using ID as the shard key, and the table name is new users, which would be created. So now I need to run this migration command, which is PHP artisan migrate, and this would, okay, it says the single store is not configured. So let's go and check what is wrong. So let's, I think there should be a name issue. Single store. Okay. Okay, this is the problem. You see, I mentioned the connection twice. So now I think we should be fine. So you don't need this. So now you have single store. Okay, now let's try it again. Okay, I see there's some issue which is going on. Let me just quickly check. Give me a second, please. So it says cannot connect to SQL as the table name migrations already exist. So, okay, let's do something else. Let's just create another database. Let's name our databases as demo for an example. And now let's try to create, okay. It says information systems. Okay, let me check what is wrong.
Asabri, actually, there's a person that has said that your array is open. Maybe that's what's causing the issue.
Oh, is it? Oh, thank you for detecting that, but let me check. Is this area are we talking about?
I don't know what they are pointing out at, but like they are Giovanni. This is a comment from Giovanni. They say that this array is open. That is why you're encountering this issue. I don't know which array they're referring to, but yeah.
Yeah, can you point out the error to me? I think it would be easier if we do that. So I think this one is closed, so we should be fine. This closes here, this closes here. Let's go to env. This also looks fine. Let me just check what is wrong with SingleStore. Okay, so I have a demo. Let me create a new database for me as myself for this one. Okay. Do we have any questions at this point on this? I can take up questions till it is, yeah. So, yeah, okay. I have two tables over here. Now, if I try to connect, does that? No. Okay. So let's see what's wrong. I have this as a closing, and then you have database where you're closing default, SingleStore, you have everything. Can you point out which array that we were talking about? Else I can just skip it and then I'll share you the uh, demo link and then you can easily connect. This is SQL, this is SingleStore. This is what we were referring to. So, okay. And then you have new users, the table name new users, where you have email name and email verified app. It says select one from information system, information schema dot tables. Okay, let me just remove this and we'll create it again. I think we haven't been able to establish the connection for the beginning itself. So PHP license. So let's see this. And if I go, yeah, okay. It says connecting to SQL. Why? Okay, let me clear the cache. Cannot connect SQL using. Okay, I think we will figure this out, but for now, I am sure my application will not have the issue. So let me give you a tour of the application that I have created. So this is let me just see if this works. Yeah, okay. Okay, this works. So let me just give you a demo of how we have created this. Now, okay, so now firstly, let's see about the databases that I have created. So I am building an observability platform where this observability platform is trying to first we are trying to insert the logs into it and then we are trying to see what are the logs that are creating those errors. So is there anyone who does not know what observability is? I can take a step and then let you know what observability means. So I'm taking this. Okay, I'm taking the silence as a yes, maybe. Okay, so so if you have been building applications and observability platform is the one where if there is something wrong which is going on inside your apps, this platform will help you determine those errors and also help you correct those errors with more systems that are integrated into it. So for now, we are just trying to identify what are the different errors which are occurring inside the system, and this is one platform that we have created. So there are four different things that we have created. The first is the ingestion, where it is trying to load the data. So let me go back on the routes and I'll show you. The first one is where it is ingesting the data. So if I use this REST API, it is going to insert the data into my system. The other three are which are calculating the matrices. The first one is the error rate. then there is latency, and then there are top offenders. We'll talk about this when we are discussing the matrices. Then there are alert systems. So if something wrong goes on in the system, it will generate an alert based on this REST API. And for all of this alerting system, we have also created a UI for it. The UI of it looks similar to this one. So this is one of the application, one of the tenant ID, which is creating an issue, the kind of the issue and what, when was it detected, and has it been resolved, all of those would come on this dashboard. So let's go back to the demo and see. So these are the REST APIs that we've created. So the first step is ingesting the data, where we are trying to load the data into the system. So now that our system is working, let's try to ingest the data a few times into the system. So let's say one is inserted. Let's insert more data. So I'm just repeating my ingestion command, the curl command which I have, and then we'll verify this data on the SingleStore as well. So let's select another R database, which is ops metrics in this case. And if you understand this, this is where it is creating. It is all the events are getting stored. So let me just write a command which would show you that the data is getting ingested. So these are the last 5 data that I've ingested. So you see 22, 12, 22, 12, and then these are the other data that have been inserted. Okay. So now your system already has all the logs and all the errors that, or error logs inside the system, inside your databases. Now, the 3 matrices that we have talked about. So let's go back to this one. The first one is the error rate. So this measures the ratio of the failed request to the total number of requests that has come in. So in the system, we are going to calculate it per service, per tenant, per minute. So how many errors are being generated per service, per tenant, and per minute? How are these generated? Now, at any single point of time, these errors might not make sense, but if you take these errors over a time period of, let's say, 20 minutes, this will show that this error has been recurring after every 2 minutes looking at the logs. So this is what error rate is going to show. So now to check that out, let's check this API and see what are the, if there is an error rate. So there are a total of 5 errors which have been generated in this kind of minute bucket, and we have like one error that has been generated in this timestamp. And the type of error is a authentication service, because we have raised that message where login has failed and password is mismatched. So this is the kind of error that we have inserted. Now the next one is latency. It measures how long the request is taking to complete, aggregate per service over the recent time window. So it computes the average and the maximum latency. It is often an early warning signal. Users usually experience slowness before before an application is going to shut down all at once, and then this is the latency that is seen. So now to detect that latency, we have another metrics that we have calculated. So this shows that this service is the one which is creating this latency. And then there are top offenders. Now when let's imagine a huge system where the logs are being ingested from different kind of services. Now when you see all of these services, you have a huge amount of warning inside the system. What this top offender, or this one REST API, this REST API would do is it's just going to narrow down all of those services which have been creating issues. So let's say in our case it would be auth service, for an example. Right now, the next part of it is the alert engine, where you just use like create alerts onto it. So I have used the command here, so let's use this command where it is scanning the alerts. So now the alert is already open for this tenant which we have created. And now if we see what are the alert policies for it, you would see this into your system, which was created at this and it was updated at this minute. And then you have the default error rate policy. Now to detect this, we have created the alerts API. And then this is what you see on this alert dashboards as well. So this is all created with, so if I just take auth service, if I just take let's say for an example, this resolved only. So none of the errors are resolved. So I have all the errors. So let's take all the service, all the unresolved errors, apply filters to it. And then you have those errors which are coming in onto the system. So this is a very simple system that we have built. If you want to have a more larger system, you can always go for ingesting data using Kafka into your system. So what is important here is that the log, matrices, alerts, and dashboards are all being powered by just one single database, which is performing all the analytics. So the alert policies and all go into here. You have all the log events which go into here, and then you have all the alerts that goes inside these. So this is just one database which is performing all of these operations for you. This is also doing the ingestion, this is also doing the transactions, this is also doing the analytics for you on which of this is performing an error. So this observability system is not just it's just an example, but it demonstrates how single store can replace multiple components, perform the transactions, perform the analytics, perform the real-time storage as well, and it could all be done inside just one single system. So this is what I had for the demo, but I want to give a quick try to my existing one as well. So let me just see if that works. I'll shut this system down. So let me create open my system. So if you have any questions for me, you can send it to me on the chat, and then I'll be able to, if I'm able to answer those questions. Otherwise, please remember to send these questions on subreddit so that these questions are noted down very, very carefully, and I would take help from the product team and help you answer those questions better. So let me just open this code again, and then okay, let me. It's still causing some problem that I'm not aware of. This all it's works fine. Let's do the ops metrics. I think something is just wrong with the way I wrote it. So let me just circle back to it. I'll stop sharing, and by the time you can ask questions so that I can check what exactly is wrong. And yeah, that is all that I had. So if you have a system, like, let me just end it and conclude my presentation. So I hope I've been able to help you while building this Laravel application. I know there are things that didn't go well, but if you want the link to the GitHub repository, please let me know. So I'll be attaching them to the description box of this one once this goes out. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn or on Reddit, because that's a great platform if you can ask more questions, or just send us an email if you wish to. And thank you and have great holidays, and see you next year. So, yeah, I'll take up questions if there are any.
Folks, we're officially open for Q&A, so if we highly encourage you to add any questions that you might have from the session, if there's any comments. I'm sorry. If there's any comments, please feel free to add that right now. If not, we will obviously send a recording. So if there's any parts that you missed, feel free to follow along. And you can always reach out to Aasawari on LinkedIn as well if there's any, if there's any questions that you're not comfortable taking up right now. She can answer them, you guys can have a discussion on the subreddit as well, and she's doing a great job managing that. So yeah, I think if there's no questions, we can conclude the session.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a great rest.